With Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom came the end of the DCEU, otherwise known as the Snyderverse. And while there are some celebrating its demise, there are also many that are mourning the loss of their heroes. But before we turn the page completely, let's take a look back and rank the entire DC Extended Universe. I'm sure this won't be controversial at all.
What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Number 17, Suicide Squad. It doesn't seem likely that we'll ever get the fabled Ayer cut of this film, but the one that we did receive was rough. Filled with enough licensed music that it feels like a music video, Suicide Squad does just about everything wrong. From characters being introduced multiple times, to the worst iteration of the Joker ever put to film. Everything about this one is just a mess. If you love plots that don't make sense and bad CGI, then this one is for you.
And everything has a price. One I'm not willing to pay. Not anymore.
Number 16, Wonder Woman 1984. It's kind of mind-blowing just how awful this film ended up being, but I don't want this to be all criticism, so I'll mention some positives. Bringing back Steve Trevor allows for more of that wonderful chemistry that exists between Pine and Gadot, and the fact that the Dreamstone provides the origin for all the villains is pretty neat. But that's about it for good. Instead, we've got Kristen Wiig choosing to be a cat when she's already proven she can kick some serious butt, and Pedro Pascal being more of the coked out businessman than the charisma machine that we're used to seeing. Not a lot works here, but hey, at least it's got an 80s aesthetic.
Perhaps that name is a little old-fashioned.
So what should we call you?
Number 15, Black Adam. Otherwise known as The Rock and his power struggle with Warner Brothers, this film checked all the drama boxes. Despite being a villain for Shazam, Dwayne Johnson didn't want to face off with Zachary Levi's titular character. So the film we receive is a strange mishmash of what feels like other better movies. Still, as much of a failure as the film was on a critical and financial level, there are worse ways to spend 2 hours and 5 minutes? Jesus. Well, maybe that was part of the problem. But the inclusion of the Justice Society gave the film a familiar texture. This seemed like a team-up movie, only we didn't really know any of the key players. But it was interesting to see the usually vanilla Johnson play someone with a dark edge. He's straight murdering dudes in this one.
You know how to ride one of these? Are you kidding? I don't know what the hell it is!
Number 14, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The final film featuring the Snyderverse, it's still a little too soon to see how this one fares amongst the rest of the catalog. More of a team-up movie with Arthur Curry and his brother Orm, the movie is very middle of the road. Continuing to make Black Manta into an absolute joke, there are some odd choices being made in this one, but it's still great to see the classic Aquaman suit represented. It still blows me away that they were somehow able to make this cool.
Barry Allen. Bruce Wayne.
You said that like it explains why there's a total stranger in my place, sitting in the dark in my second favorite chair.
Number 13, Justice League, or Justice League. A myriad of controversies have plagued this movie, with many of the stars coming out against reshoot director Joss Whedon. But honestly, I would firmly put this film in the so bad it's good category. Many of these characters seem to exist in a world that almost feels like a standalone story. The League bickers like teenagers, and Bruce Wayne is more Tony Stark than the Caped Crusader that we're used to. Combine this with some of the most generic villains imaginable, and it's amazing this was the version they deemed worthy to release. Nothing like chasing that Marvel dragon.
For you, everyone can be worthy if given a chance. No, go fight for your family. Go fight for the world. I chose right when I chose you.
Number 12, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. The second Shazam outing suffers from a fairly generic plot, but still features the same fun as the original. I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was made out to be, and just had the misfortune of coming out at a terrible time. With that said, it is still pretty generic, so there's really not much to say about this one. It's more or less the first movie with a few more bells and whistles.
Lois Lane, welcome to the planet.
Number 11, Man of Steel. The film that started it all and gave us a dark and brooding Superman. Yay. Some may be shocked at its low placement, but I've never seen positives in this film. But I know how much you folks love it, so I made sure to move it up a couple spots. Henry Cavill has so much potential as Superman, which is why it sucks that we get so little of him suited up. Michael Shannon is giving it his all as General Zod. But a boring extended sequence on Krypton proves the old saying of maybe less is more. The easiest part to criticize is the ending, where Superman and Zod murder thousands upon thousands of innocent civilians, to the point that we get great lines like this in subsequent films.
Thankfully, the workday is over and the downtown core, it's nearly empty.
The universe has sent you a gift, Ant-Man. And you have to figure out what you're gonna do with it. Maybe this did all happen for a reason. Maybe it's time that we get our own hero.
Number 10, Blue Beetle. Never did I think that we'd ever see Blue Beetle in film form, but we finally got it in 2023. And it was pretty darn good, with a fantastic message about family. Unfortunately, due to the upheaval at DC, combined with audiences' growing apathy towards the genre, it never managed to be successful. The villain is a little weak, but it almost feels like a rite of passage for the hero to go against someone with the same power set as them. So, like the original Iron Man, I can forgive it. But where Blue Beetle really excels is how it utilizes the side characters, making them more meaningful to the story than just motivation for the titular superhero. Thankfully, Xolo Maridueña is one of the only DCEU cast members to carry over to the new DCU, so this won't be the last that we've seen of him in the role. Here's hoping the next go-around has more eyeballs on it. Number 9, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Snyder's depiction of Batman here is absolutely perfect, with all of the Cape Crusader action being a highlight. Okay, maybe I could go for a little less killing, but whatever. And if you thought pitting two titans against each other was enough for an entertaining film, Snyder also packed in the Death of Superman storyline, complete with Doomsday and Wonder Woman. So there's a lot going on here, and practically works as a team-up movie with its various tones and many characters. The ultimate cut manages to make some more sense of a few plot holes and is a more well-rounded story, so I always recommend watching that version.
But I'm the one they should be scared of. Not you, not Mr. J. Because I'm Harley Quinn.
Number 8, Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn being one of the centerpieces of the DCEU was always a bit strange, but Margot Robbie always seemed to make it work. And having such a wacky character at the forefront provides for plenty of great moments. Ewan McGregor shows up as an eccentric Black Mask, and we get a female team-up that doesn't immediately seem like pandering. I challenge anyone to watch this and not crave the best breakfast sandwich ever made.
So what? So we do nothing?
No, we are doing something. We can't save everyone in this war. This is not what we came here to do.
No, but it's what I'm going to do.
Number 7, Wonder Woman. An origin tale set during World War II doesn't exactly scream putting butts in seats, but this film managed to carve out a nice little niche for itself. While still set during this dour time in Europe, there's a lot of hope present. Steve Trevor and Diana's chemistry is absolutely electric, and the filmmakers constantly prove why Wonder Woman is such a badass.
How many people are on this special fight team?
3, including you.
3? Against what?
I'll tell you on the plane.
Plane.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
Number 6, Zack Snyder's Justice League. The landscape of comic book cinema was altered with just one phrase: release the Snyder Cut. And suddenly, Zack Snyder's seemingly dead Justice League project was recut and finished into a massive 4-hour epic released to HBO Max. With a more coherent story than the Joss Whedon version, it's great to see these heroes team up and actually be competent at their jobs. and this features probably the coolest ending of any of these films, making a case for why the Flash is one of the most powerful characters in all of DC.
Gee whiz, mister, sorry I took your cane. You want it back?
Number 5. Shazam. The DCEU was at its best when it took smaller characters and was able to give them their own spotlight. Shazam is someone who's been rumored for their own movie for years, often being paired with arch-nemesis Black Adam. Yet when we finally received a big screen iteration, there was no Black Adam in sight, and instead the story focused on what it means to be a family. It's heartfelt while still having a dark edge to it, like the Boardroom Massacre, which is just, chef's kiss. While it doesn't break a ton of new ground, what it does do is handle the familiar in a very competent way.
Eagly, take it. No, Eagly, just take the helmet. Take it. I know you don't like her. The mean blonde woman has nothing to do with this.
Number 4. Peacemaker. Technically, this is the only TV show in the DCEU, and it leaves quite an impression. With John Cena reviving his Peacemaker character from the Suicide Squad, this manages to be as hilarious as it is crass. Cena proves to be a great leading man, and the credit sequence is absolutely can't miss. Gunn has always had the ability to make even the smallest character seem big, and this is a great example of that. And while it's still not quite clear what the second season will entail, it's the only real survivor outside of Blue Beetle going into the next regime. Let's just hope for some more vigilante.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Number 3. The Flash. I'm so happy that this movie seems to be finding a second life, and I think that the more that time passes, the more it will hold up. Adapting Flashpoint Paradox with its own flair, we also saw the return of Michael Keaton in the Batsuit. That was enough for the price of admission. The visual representation of the many different universes colliding together provides the opportunity to see so many classic characters together in a way we'd never seen before. And I'm not going to let a little suspect CGI ruin the fact that I finally got to see Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater share the screen together, or Nick Cage finally suiting up as Superman. Some call it pandering, I call it exactly like the comic books. The only thing that I would have changed is putting this at the very end of the Snyderverse, as it would have been a perfect ending.
No one likes to show off.
Unless what they're showing off is dope as
That's true.
Number 2. The Suicide Squad. In a bit of irony, given that James Gunn is now one of the co-heads of DC Films, the Suicide Squad had plenty working against it. It was a pandemic release, and the only reason it happened was due to Gunn being fired from Marvel. You know, before they backtracked and gave him his old job back. But it was also a semi-reboot/sequel of what is widely considered one of the worst DC films, Suicide Squad. So, adding a "the," Gunn really leaned into the expendable nature of the squad, and provided a film where no one was truly safe. Heck, he's able to make us care for Ratcatcher 2, King Shark, and freaking Polka Dot Man.
Should have a parachute! Redheads! You gotta love them!
Number 1. Aquaman. It's hard to consider anything else as the crowning achievement of the DC Extended Universe. Aquaman was a character that was ruthlessly made fun of for years, and no one thought it could be done successfully. But then Jason Momoa and James Wan came along and absolutely blew people's socks off. Aquaman is an adventure that isn't weighed down by the universe-destroying stakes of some of the team-up films, and instead allows the filmmakers to focus on something more personal: identity. As a man from both worlds, but not truly accepted by either, Arthur Curry has a clearly defined struggle. It's easy to root on this charismatic superhero as he simply seeks out his family. This resulted in the biggest box office of the entire DCEU and is the gold standard for how to make a creative and fun superhero movie. As we close out this chapter of DC cinema, it's easy to look back on these with some fond memories. While much of its potential was cut short, there are still some absolute gems in this lineup. Here's hoping the next regime provides a cohesive and unforgettable world. How would you rank the DCEU? How mad are you at my own ranking? Be honest. Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.